Hey beautiful people, today I have a big surprise. We are going to be making our very own all-natural deodorant. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, especially if you're someone who enjoys the occasional DIY project. So don't forget that. So in order to create this deodorant, first we are going to need beeswax. Yes. A lot of people don't know this, but beeswax is microbial. Yeah, so not only is it natural, but it's slightly microbial, and in this case we are going to use it as a stabilizer. Next we are going to be using kaolin clay. That's a tongue twister. But kaolin clay can absorb sweat and neutralize body odor, which is something that we definitely need in a deodorant, especially if we are creating a natural deodorant. Next we are going to need our zinc oxide. Now, zinc oxide is the main active ingredient. Zinc oxide also has odor fighting abilities, and it's also microbial, meaning that it can kill bacteria. And that's definitely an active ingredient that we want for our deodorant, as moisture does attract bacteria, and we don't want that. So in this case, we are swapping out baking soda for the zinc oxide, which is totally fine. Next, we are using our arrowroot powder. Now, arrowroot powder is very similar to cornstarch, tapioca starch, but arrowroot powder absorbs moisture and it keeps odor to a minimum. And the next ingredient we are going to use for this deodorant is coconut oil. In this case, we are using coconut oil because it kills fungi, and we need that especially up under our arms. And not only does it kill fungi, but it also soothes and protects the skin. Next, I am using this 4-ounce tin. It's just a standard tin that I purchased from Mountain Rose Herbs. I use this because it's easily to carry, because it's very light. The next ingredient is optional. I actually did not use essential oils in this recipe, but you can use lavender, geranium oil, any type of essential oil that you prefer. Next, we are going to need a mortar and pestle. You guys, I'm bougie. We probably don't need this, but I have to use it for a portion of the tutorial, and you'll be able to see what I'm talking about once we get through it. Let's get started. Okay, now we are measuring out our zinc oxide. I forgot to mention that you will need a scale, but if in the event that you don't have one, I will link the equivalent US cup, teaspoon, tablespoon measurements in the description box below, just in case. So here, my scale is a little bit wonky, and it was at this point that I noticed that I had messed up. I forgot to tear the glass jar that I'm using, but that's okay. We're going to get it back together. So I'm using about 4 grams of zinc oxide. As I said before, this is the active ingredient. This is the part where you don't want to mess up this measurement, because this is the part where we really need the odor fighting and microbial properties of this zinc oxide. So now that we have measured out our zinc oxide, now I'm going to go in and just finely crush the zinc oxide powder, just to make sure that when we finally mix it all together, there are no clumps. Before moving on, you just want to make sure that the zinc oxide is very fine. So now I'm going to go ahead and add my powder into a larger bowl, just to make sure that we can add our extra ingredients. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and add our coconut oil. I'm using about 28 grams or an eighth of a cup of this oil. You do not have to melt the oil in advance. Keeping it in the solid form is just fine. So as we know, coconut oil hydrates and protects the skin. It provides antioxidants and easily absorbs into the skin. Okay, so before we move forward, I just want to show you all the texture of this mixture at this point. So we have added our coconut oil and our zinc oxide, and because I have whisked this for a long time, the coconut oil has melted and the zinc oxide has blended into the mixture, which is what we want. Please feel free to use a hand mixer or just a stationary whisk. Next, we are going to add our kaolin clay. So, you guys, this is a very soft clay, and as you can see, I've kept this little packet in there, and that's to make sure that no moisture gets inside of here. So I'm adding about 15 grams or 4 teaspoons. So I'm just going to add it in there and make sure that I mix it up all together. Kaolin clay is very good for absorbing body sweat and neutralizing body odor. So now we're going to add 1.4 grams or a half a teaspoon of beeswax. So once we have stirred in our beeswax, we're going to go ahead and use 21 grams or 2 tablespoons of this arrowroot powder. And once we have stirred this all together, we're going to go ahead and melt this on a double broiler. So after I melted my mixture, I let it sit for a few minutes, and as you can see, the consistency is a little bit harder than what we started with, and that's just because of the kaolin clay, and we know that when you sit clay out for a long period of time, it does harden up, and that's okay. So we're just gonna stir it up and make sure that the mixture is ready to go. So the texture is really good. The smell is very, very good, even without the essential oils. But if you did want to add those oils, I would recommend you add them right after you have melted the mixture and let it sit for a minute. So now I'm going to go ahead and add my deodorant into this 4-ounce tin jar. As I said in the beginning, these jars are really easy to travel with, which is why I'm using this one. So there you have it. We have created our very own natural deodorant, And it does have a very earthy smell, which is something that I really love. It has a very smooth consistency. It doesn't stain your clothing, which is something else that I love. If you all have any questions about this recipe, please don't forget to comment down below and let me know. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and like this video if you enjoyed this content and this recipe. I love you all so much. Don't forget to practice self-care. Have a wonderful day and never stop being you. Bye.